Beth.
Yeah, so I've got a little intro for Brett. So please welcome Brett Steiner, founder and CEO of Engrain. Engrain's mission is to transform the way people find, lease, and manage properties through products that engage prospects and residents, analyze and improve operational performance, and increase NOI. Brett's extensive background in design, user experience, and commercial real estate spurred the innovation of its award-winning Touch Tour and Sitemap product lines, and has allowed the company to spearhead the advancement of real estate technology industry. In 2020, Engrain released its Unit Map SDK and API library, paving the way for operators and prop tech vendors to innovate without having to solve the difficult to address unit and soup mapping problems. Thanks, Brett.
Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for your time. I'm gonna toggle back and forth between a deck that I have and some actual product examples. But our company, Engrain, is most known in software for two product lines. We have Touch Tour and we have Sitemap. Today I'm going to be talking about our Sitemap and Unit Map product line, where we will be talking about activating maps in your tech stack, which very much applies to both the owner-operator side of commercial real estate and any type of commercial real estate, and then on the vendor side. Okay, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Engrain has been in prop tech for over 12 years at this point, mostly focused in the multifamily residential space. That's where we've sort of cut our teeth and have huge traction in that sector. And in 2021, we're moving quickly into other verticals as well. We have over 120 employees, 150 integration partners, both inbound and outbound. These would be property management software systems, content providers, website providers, things of that nature. And to date, we have over 3 million units mapped in our system, and I'll show you what that means. Little history: since we founded, we brought Touch Tour to market in 2009, which is the multifamily's leading in sales office touchscreen software that allows leasing and sales teams to essentially tour somebody from a screen to show them a building, a new construction building or an existing building, find apartments, look at pictures, virtual tours, things of that nature. And it's at that point that we identified a need for an interactive mapping solution. So we launched Sitemap in 2016, which I'll show you today. And then underneath Sitemap, we opened up sort of the core engine of that product, which is called Unit Map, and released a series of APIs in 2019. And then in this year, in 2020, we released location awareness in all of our maps. So there's 4 pillars to our mapping story. Our Sitemap product is used primarily for leasing and touring, which has been huge this year. Again, both in multifamily, residential, but then we've brought it into self-storage, commercial, co-working, parking, and have our sites on hospitality, healthcare, and education next year. Sitemap is typically used on a website. I will switch over to that in a moment. Sitemap Asset Intelligence is a BI and data visualization product that we have that I'll be sharing with you today, and it is primarily used to understand a property's performance within a BI dashboard. In addition to our own product, Asset Intelligence, we do have a plugin to be able to bring one of our maps into Microsoft Power BI for users that already have that environment set up. Parking is a huge mapping opportunity for us this year. We see a lot of operators looking to monetize and leverage unused or underutilized parking in different ways. And then sort of our big idea that we're most excited about for CRE Tech is a technology we call Unit Map, which is essentially a maps as a service platform that can be leveraged throughout the CRE Tech ecosystem. This will it's a service that is used as a feature in different products, and then also including our own, and something that we're setting up a lot of wiring for going into 2021. So talking about Unit Map first, keeping this in mind, essentially what this is a platform where we encode units or suites or rooms or spaces into a map that can be used accessed through an SDK and an extensive API library, and then used for touring, wayfinding, leasing, and business intelligence. Currently, as I mentioned in the multifamily side, we have over 400 operators relying on this technology to share thousands of map with different innovators across the industry. Switching over, this is an example of our sitemap product. So sitemap is integrated. It's using a unit map underneath. It's the underneath layer of the map. And then it's using integrations with third-party property management systems to understand pricing and inventory. In addition to that, we are able to link out to any online leasing, reservation, or contact platform, so we can integrate with any CRM. And the product is highly configurable. So we can add any number of filters to the experience, any type of map design that one of our clients brings to us. This is an example of a mid-rise multifamily building. We can also accommodate high-rise buildings. Here's an example of that. And we can attach any type of content that our clients have to the experience. So this year, with needing to tour virtually and remotely, we added quite a lot of virtual tour content, Matterport videos, things of that nature. Switching over to another example to kind of show you what that looks like. Most exciting is in early 2020, we released location awareness into sitemap. So what this means is that anybody who's at the property and we have geo-referenced their map, they will be able to click this button and see their location actually on site and track their movement throughout their tour. We have a video of what that looks like from a user's experience that we created on an iPad. In the background, we have an iPad using Google Maps. And then on the left-hand side, this is one of our maps on a client website, just for context. And you'll be able to see that once a user activates their georeferencing, the blue dot appears on the map. And then in this case, as somebody's driving throughout the property, the level of fidelity that it tracks their location is very close. This is using GPS, so the accuracy will be dependent on a user's location and their actual cell reception at that location. But this opens the door for us to take our interactive site maps and add geo awareness to them, which means we can turn them into GeoJSON and use them on more traditional maps as well. In addition to multifamily housing, we have started to work in co-working type spaces where we take our unit map, same business concept, but now we are just applying it to a different use case, okay? Here's an example of a self-storage map. You'll notice that they're using iconography and different things to just tell us a different story, essentially. And now moving into a world of contactless leasing in all types of real estate classes, having a map is a critical part of this user experience. So people know where to go, they know context. We've been able to demonstrate and prove out that users expect to get this type of information when making decisions about leasing anything, and are willing to pay more for locations within a building or a property that they consider advantageous. So for an apartment, that might be an amenity space, access, things of that nature. For self-storage, same thing. You may pay more for a storage unit that's closer to a loading dock or something similar. And the same concepts apply as you move into other types of units that we make maps for, including parking. So this is an example of a very robust parking map of a 7-story parking garage where users are able to sort of understand parking zones, and our client is able to associate content with these, both for parking, but then also for storage and other types of items. So it really shows the versatility of the underlying platform. Sitemap is backed up by a very robust and well-documented API library, which means that our maps can be integrated into any third-party website or software application. and used in any number of use cases. Okay, so in a typical use case, we will work with a web developer to embed the map as seamlessly as possible within a website, so users have context of where the specific apartments or suites or offices are that they're looking at. Switching over to the second part of the story, if sitemap is the customer or prospect facing part of the transaction, sitemap asset intelligence is the owner or manager's view of an asset's performance. And switching over to this, you'll notice that the unit map that we're using in this use case no longer has any of the marketing components to it. Now we're just looking at a black and white unit map and then bringing in all of that pricing data to use from a more asset management perspective. And this product was inspired by seeing our clients create a similar experience in Microsoft Excel. And talking to various vendor partners, actually solving map visualization is a very hard problem, which is why we invested so much in building out the unit map platform. Now, any of our partners could create a similar experience in their own application. But in a use case like this, it's easy to see how reasoning about different business topics, in this case, we're looking at which apartments are leased, which are available, which ones are on notice, how the property is performing from a pro forma variance perspective, and then looking at scenarios like renewals, which apartments are on renewal. This will allow you to make much more informed pricing and renewal and leasing decisions, and is our fastest growing product right now. In addition to this, what we call a floor plate view, where you're looking at one floor at a time, we can create additional unit maps that match different contexts or use cases. In this case, for a high rise, we will create a unit map that is an elevation view of the property, where we sort of split it in half, and now you can see and identify trends from exterior or what we call a stack view. Similar to other use cases that I've described, this can be leveraged in any asset class, and we can have any number of configurations of how you'd want to see the different units or spaces within a building or across buildings. Great example of this is we have a client who is using their unit maps to track renovation status for a large property. So they can use construction data and a 3-year renovation plan and start to filter and sort of understand and create plans on where this activity needs to happen. This example also shows a different type of unit map showing what we call a stack view, where if there's multiple units on top of each other, you're able to, again, understand sort of trends and understand and track different contexts throughout the property. And this one also, when I described the geo-referencing or geo-awareness of our unit maps, we are able to take the unit map and incorporate it onto an actual map stage. So in this case, we took the unit map, turned it into GeoJSON, and then laid it on top of a Mapbox background, which now we were able to bring a real world view of an asset's performance. Okay, we think this is a major game changer for unit map, particularly because the actual unit map technology is very simple to integrate. A software developer can integrate a unit map into their application in under an hour. And once they've integrated with our APIs, they can add any number of buildings or properties into their system. So very exciting, and exciting, affordable, and I think something that will be a big focus of ours in 2021. Showing a similar example of a taller building. As Mapbox and Google continue to expose more APIs, we will be able to integrate this more and more seamlessly into those architectures over time as well. Switching over to the unit map platform itself, The sort of core technology here is used in multiple business use cases. So currently, touring applications are very popular. We have, in the multifamily space, our maps are used in most of the major self-touring platforms today. We're also working in several commercial use cases, both on the broker side, with brokers needing to tour assets remotely and essentially provide all of the content they have around an asset through our sitemap product. But then we're starting to get into commercial leasing and commercial use cases as well. We're also in conversations to incorporate unit maps onto various listing services, where if somebody's looking for an apartment, for example, they can have a map for context and really understand location as they're reasoning about their different options. We think BI dashboards is a huge and somewhat obvious use case for having a map. Being able to see location metrics alongside other metrics in a property's performance is critical in decision making. And then we think the biggest use case for unit map is in the IoT sensor and smart home space, where if we have a unit map that is attached to sensors that are attached to smart locks or thermostats or hubs on a specific suite, you can use the unit map actually within management portals, user applications for wayfinding, and really start to create a fabric of the story that's actually happening. As I said, we have a very robust SDK and API that has been tested by multiple developers outside of Engrain. So we're very confident in that. And it's important to remember that context matters as we're reasoning about unit maps. So in a lot of cases, we have multiple maps created for a specific asset that can be used by different providers or used within different applications. As an example, the one I shared with you, the elevation view, works good for high rises or buildings that have many floors. We have an oblique view that works well for buildings that are not too tall and the footprint is relatively manageable. But again, this allows us to see all of the units within a building or an asset on the same stage. And then the stack view, a bit more utilitarian, where I can come in and understand not the shapes of the actual units, but their location and their context to one another. And then any other types of maps. So we are having conversations about parking and other co-working type scenarios like desks and things. And then even looking at applications like this for things like data centers. Our geo view of unit map is something that is on our roadmap to release in our unit map APIs in mid-2021, and is something we expect to move very quickly on our roadmap. The way that we've structured all of this is around that sitemap license that I showed you on the first product. And so generally our pricing looks like this. We're able to onboard a sitemap for only $300. So the technology allows us to move very quickly. And as long as our clients have a map that we can work with, we can do that quick and cheap. And then currently we're using a per unit per month basis, pricing basis. So it's 20 cents per unit per month. That certainly can be negotiated based on portfolio size, asset class, things of that nature. Couple add-ons, if we need to add georeferencing, there's an additional fee for that. And then we do offer premium map design services for any of our clients or vendor partners who don't have a map of their property. And we have various ways of getting those. And then we also do surveys. So we have many instances where clients want to do parking maps but don't have parking, which our mapping has turned into an incredibly valuable auditing and sort of inventorying tool for a lot of operators as well. So that is the deck, and I wanted to make sure we save some time for questions here.
Thanks, Brent. Folks, I've added a couple of links, some videos, and then places to find more information in the chat. So do check out those. So jumping right into the Q&A, for an existing building, do you have architectural plans? How do you manage, and with what tools do you use to generate the building map from scratch?
Great question. And the hardest part of building this platform over the last 3.5 years is people that don't have maps. So we have a process that we'll go through depending on the asset class, where first we'll ask for obvious things like marketing plans, signage plans, directory plans. Then we'll get into architect plans, things of that nature. And if we don't have any of those things, then we'll dig deeper into like operations manuals. We'll go online and look at permitting, things of that nature. And we have our map team is very adept at using essentially forensic satellite photography, anything we can get from the client. And if we have to, we'll actually go on site and tour an inventory. So very much depends, but something that we've grown very adept at. And we can use AutoCAD files, just sort of depends on the specific use case.
Great. So you touched on different verticals. This questioner asked about specific use cases for hospitals and sports venues, universities, resorts, seaport, airports. Want to talk a little bit more about different industry uses?
Yeah, all of the above. So we've started to have conversations. Now that we've proven out the tech, we do see applications, and anything where the interior unit doesn't change very often. If it does change, we can accommodate that. But the healthcare use case, we think we've had conversations in that space, and we think it's perfect for this application because we can use it per room or per bed, and then offer the unit map to the myriad different software applications that are coming to that space. Same thing with education, same thing with hospitality. Sports venues and things like that, there's already a lot of mapping technologies that are there. So we're not looking to necessarily compete on the application side. If you're going to pick your specific seat for a concert or a sporting event, they typically will have a map. So we're not planning on going to those. We can, but we're not planning on going into there too aggressively. It's more for existing assets or new assets where they just need a map visualization tool that fits in between the software they're using every day and commonly available mapping software.
Well, that kind of leads me to my next question, is about integrations, and how do you guys integrate with existing cloud platforms? They ask about AWS, Azure, etc.
Sure. So once we encode the unit map, we send the unit map it's encoded as JSON, and we send it to AWS in our environment. And then our API library is used to then access those maps to render in a software application. So for our own products, that's how we're incorporating unit maps. But for third-party applications, they're able to bring unit mapped into their applications the exact same way they would Google Maps. Okay.
Next question is about what's next on the roadmap for you guys. What other solutions do you guys have coming?
So we will continue to, over time, our goal is to build out the actual unit map platform. So where we're actually using this as a tool that any building can have one unit map that then is used in all of the different software applications that apply to that building. Okay, so using a map as a feature, it's a very difficult thing to do, and a lot of software developers have maps on their roadmap. And are putting it off because it's a hard problem to solve. And we're hoping that this will move the entire industry forward by sort of taking that work off the table. I think that our own roadmap is most focused on essentially applying unit level metadata to all of our maps so that users can start to reason about location for machine learning and AI applications. So in other words, we think that today, when I look at one of these maps, like on a Mapbox stage, what users, clients, owners aren't reasoning about very consistently is describing a unit's location in actual space. And so we're starting to innovate in that area. So when you actually consume the unit map in your software application, you would receive metadata that actually said, unit 1621 is a corner unit with a north-facing view, things like that.
That sounds really exciting. So the last question I have, and folks, we still have a couple more minutes, so please, feel free to type in some questions. But the last question I have is, how do you see the industry transform as a result of leasing and selling commercial and residential real estate going forward?
I think we're very excited about a lot of the new technologies that have come about this year, or that were probably inevitably would have come about with virtual tours, remote touring, things of that nature. And I think that the pandemic has really forced innovation. What would have happened in 2 or more years had to happen in 2 or 3 months. And what we've seen and we're super excited about is how different providers have had to work together to solve our common clients' problems. We're huge believers in integrations. We have open APIs. We expect to work with partners who have open APIs. And I think that the days of locking up a client's data are over. And now it's time to start solving problems in different ways.
Well, thank you, Brent and Engrain. We really appreciate that. And folks, this is the end of our program today. Thanks so much for everyone who joined us. We'll see you next year. Take care.
Thank you, Bethany.
Bye-bye.